In today's video, we're going to be looking at this Pfaff 160S and we're going to see what's wrong with it and fix it. And we're also going to learn what this is. A little something new I'm bringing to the channel. All right, let's get to it. Today we have a Pfaff, I guess, machine, Smarter by Pfaff. It's a 160S. And this machine is not sewing correctly for its owner, and so I got the machine to take a look at it. So we're gonna do our normal, the first thing we'll do is take the machine apart, clean it, and then we'll check adjustments and go from there. Let's get started. Whenever you get a machine, you wanna take a look at it. Look at some of the settings that are on the machine right now. So our stitch length is about 2.5. Our tension is about 2.5, which this one goes up to 9. So that tension should be, for a straight stitch, 2.5 straight stitch, that tension should be around a 4. So it being at 2.5 shows me that there may be an issue with our bobbin tension on this machine, because they have to lower their tension in order to get a good stitch. So we'll take a look at all the things down here with our bobbin. And yeah, that's about it. So I just wanted to look at a couple of things to see how this machine is used and what sort of issues they could be having with it. So, all right, let's get into it. So I found on these newer machines, most of them have this case that's just over the end of the machine. And this one has a little plastic cover right here that has a screw behind it. And you got to be careful when you're prying something like that, because you got to get something really sharp to get in there, but you also don't want to put a big mar in that plastic. And in this case, my plastic pry tools are not really the correct tool to use at first, but I'm using little tweezers because they have a sharp point, and you just have to be very careful not to pry too hard and get that to come out without making a mark on it. And we were able to do that, so that's good. Customers don't like it when they get their machine back and there are pry marks all over from using big screwdrivers and things to pry plastic. So recently I got a 3D printer and I made this little thing right here. So this holds my bit, and inside of here is a little magnet that holds it in place. And that's pretty nice for that little bit, and I can get in. So I use my offset screwdriver to loosen the screws in the needle plate, and then I use this to finish getting them out, and I'll just stick my finger on top and turn it, and it comes right out. This is very useful for me, and I haven't really seen anything like this on the market that you can buy. I was thinking of maybe going ahead and printing a bunch of these and put them on my store. You can get there, it's an Etsy store, but you can get there through my website at www.sewingmachinerepairguy.com, and that will get you to the different items that I sell in my store. But I'm thinking about adding this one because it wouldn't be that difficult for me to do, print a bunch of these. It's a resin printer, so it doesn't look like it's 3D printed. It's actually very, very nice and smooth. So whenever you pull off the needle plate, you want to look at the hole for the needle and see if there are any needle strikes around there, and there are none. So needle strikes here is what will cause your thread to break, and I've got a video about that. You can see that up here in the corner and up here in the corner. And that video, I talk about different ways to fix that. So you want to look at your bobbin case and see how much movement you have. That's actually not bad. There's just a little bit of movement there. But there are, okay, so she has had a problem with this before. So there may need we may need an adjustment here. So if you look right here on this corner, the needle has hit this bobbin case, And so that will cause the thread, because the thread goes around here every time you make a stitch. And if there's any little burr on there, it will catch that thread and cause you issues. And that could be another part of the problem. And the reason that this would do that is it pulls that thread tight, and then because it does a loop around here, and then this thing gets pulled over under the needle. So we'll have to check the adjustments of the stop on here and up here on this one. Also, we will need a new bobbin case. Okay, we're going to continue with our disassembly so that we can clean this machine. The other thing about disassembly of one of these machines is you want to get the knobs off of it. So I usually try to do both hands and just kind of pull like that. Okay, this one is also, this end piece is also one big piece, so this is going to have to come out too. Like a glove. Okay. Again, we want to be very careful. So we got another one of these right here. This one also has covers on the back. So they didn't want you to find any of their screws. Okay, we got 2 screws on the top. This one might be an adjustment instead of a... Yeah. And then the bottom as well, so got a couple screws down here we'll take care of. So, as most of you know, I was in the military for 26 years before starting to do this, or before retiring and doing this full time. And so sometimes I look at the differences as to my Navy career on submarines and this new career. So it's funny because there's a lot of similarities. All this work that I'm doing to troubleshoot and repair things is what I did in the Navy. It was a lot of troubleshooting and repairing and making sure we could keep the ship, the submarine, out to sea and not have to pull in to have somebody else fix us. I didn't want somebody else fixing my gear, so I had to make sure I was able to fix it whenever it wasn't working right. So on first glance, when we get in here, I'm looking at how dirty it is, and it's not very dirty. So this machine has not been used very much. And sometimes when it comes to a machine that hasn't been used very much, your problem could be user error. It could be that the person that's using the machine is doing something wrong, misthreading it, something like that, to where the machine isn't working right. Now, that's the last place I want to look for a machine. I don't want to assume, oh, they just don't know how to use it, so I'm not going to fix it. I'm going to fix the machine as best I can and get it to sew very well for me. And then if the customer has continuous problems, we'll have to sometimes educate the user. But anyway, talking about similarities between this and the Navy, and one of the differences is that a lot of times I don't have manuals for these. So I'm kind of going off of experience, which I have very little of, or going off of what engineering, looks correct for this thing to work. And I've got an idea of how these machines work, but I haven't been doing this my whole life like a lot of other repairmen repair people. Man is a bad word to use there. A lot of repair people, and so there's a lot of people out there with a lot more experience than I have on fixing these machines, and like I don't have a manual for this, so I don't know how to open it, so I'm trying to be careful and not hurt anything. So I don't know if this back cover comes off first or the top cover. A lot of times top cover, but I'm going to look inside and see if I can see, because I can't tell if the back cover is inside a groove here or not. So let's try that the top cover. Okay. So I know it's weird, but I'm going to plug it again, my online store. So one of the things that I use a lot of times when working on these machines are my pry tools. Because I don't want to put marks in this plastic, so you don't want to use a screwdriver. And I use pry tools. So these are what I also sell these on my website in my Etsy store. And this one right here is my favorite. I use this one more than any other tool. So we're going to try this one right now and see if it can help us with this problem where I've got half of this thing up. There we go. So it was just really on there. And this looks like this probably should have come out first, because now that I'm looking at it, it's not in a groove. It's actually got little latches there. It's tough to tell. These plastic panels are one to fly today. Okay, so this comes out, and it looks like what you should do, well, yeah, that's not an easy piece to get out, the way it's engineered. Okay, this is one where the back, let's see if we've got any screws holding the plastics. Yeah, we've got one. There's a screw right in here and a little L bracket right inside there that holds this plastic to the frame. So I loosened that right up. Okay, all the next ones should be plastic clips, which is where this comes into play. So usually you go from, hold on. Yeah, you go from back to front. Okay, so I'm just putting a little pressure right here while I'm taking this and I'm pushing down along, and it's already popped out 2 of those latches. And now we're working our way up, and we're going to work our way around. There's another screw right here. You got to watch out for these things. They sneak up on you. Okay, we're going to keep applying pressure, so we've already got the middle one out here. Not an easy thing to do. There we go. Okay, now we're free, so we're just stuck on here just a little bit, so we're going to pull this out a little bit and angle it out. We got this out without using a screwdriver and damaging our plastic around here. And then the last piece is the front, which now that we've got the back off, we should be able to put a screwdriver through and get a screw. There's a screw in there. Usually a hidden screw that's holding the front on, because once you get the back off, you can get to that screw. Okay, and then there's also usually one in the front. Okay, we got one down here too. Should be the last one. Okay. This one has a lot more screws than most other like Singers that I've worked on. And again, I'd say this machine is very clean, so it has not been used very much. So I'm not thinking that our problem is going to be too bad. We do know that we've got to replace our bobbin case. Hopefully we have replacement one here. But like I said, what I do is clean the machine first and then try and figure out what's wrong with it. So we just disassembled it. We're getting to know our machine. It's not a bad little machine. It's got a pretty strong frame, metal frame. All these machines just use like a pot metal, nothing too crazy. We're gonna clean. You'll fast forward through all that, and then we'll be back. Alright, we're back. Pardon the air compressor in the background. You may not be able to hear it. I got a very quiet one so that I could do YouTube while the air compressor was running. Alright, we're going to do a check of our timing right now. Feed timing, you want to make sure that the feed dogs go below this needle plate. You want the feed dogs to go down when the needle's going down. And then you want, as soon as that needle comes up out of that needle plate, you want the feed dogs to start coming up. So that's feed timing that we're looking at, and this looks good. And then we're looking at our hook timing. That's looking pretty good on the hook timing. Needle height. Now we're on our zigzag with our maximum stitch width. And I'm just checking the timing here too, because I want to make sure that that eye of the needle does not go higher than the hook point as it's coming across. So on the left, the eye of the needle is about a millimeter, maybe a millimeter and a half below the point of the hook. And then on the other side, on the right side, we are more. We're going to sew with it, and if we have problems sewing, then we'll adjust it. But I think right now, I think we're looking good. The other thing you want to check is your hook to needle clearance. So the distance between that hook that's coming around and the needle, they should be almost touching when we come around. So I want to check that. And that looks pretty good. So I'm happy with the way the adjustments look now. The only thing that may need to change is going to be these adjustments for your bottom case. So we're going to start putting this back together, but I also want to clean the insides of some of these. I always use Crud Cutter on my plastics, and I have purchased a big bottle of it, so I just use a spray bottle. A lot of the other YouTubers for sewing machine repair that have been around longer than me recommended Crud Cutter, so I started using it, and I also like to recommend Crud Cutter. If you use it on metal components, you'll need to make sure you rinse it off. Alcohol will wipe it off, water will wipe it off. A lot of times I'll use either alcohol or even I'll do a light coat of oil on a metal piece just to give it a shine. Well, there's a little love letter inside. I don't know what that means. LCV 42121. Somebody signed it. I will tell you that I did not expect to see that it looked like that somebody else had been in this machine, because it doesn't look like someone else has been in here. So maybe that's the manufacturer. That's also weird. Why would they write it in? So whoever worked on this did a good job of not making it look like they worked on it. Maybe that's why it's so clean inside. All right, do you remember how we took everything apart? You remember the order? Front panel. And then we had some screws that held that on by itself. Hopefully I remember all my screws. Got one in the front. Now keep in mind, when you're doing screws into plastic, you don't want it to be tight. You want it to be snug. But if you tighten it, as this thing heats up and cools down, depending on where it is, it will crack. So you want it to be snug, but not real tight. this is about the time where I count my screws and I count my holes left and make sure that I have the right amount of both. So we're good. We got 2 more that go on this top right here. We got 1 that goes in the end, and we got the 2 for the needle plate. So we are doing all right. Now, is this, once again, am I supposed to do this first? I don't know. We'll see. Something's not right, so we're going to take this apart. Okay, this wire needs to go above these little tabs in order for this to be flush against the metal. Much better. Okay, so we've got into our box of goodies here, and we found one that looks like a match. Now this one says it's for Brother sewing machines, but it looks exactly like this. And in fact, the one that I have is got the felt, not felt, but a little, I don't know, carpet brush, little nylon brush. We'll call it a brush on there. And we'll see how this does. Alright, so when I look at the clearance here on this, we've got a little, like this right here is a little wide. So I'm going to bring this stopper down a little bit so that we can get you just need a little bit less clearance there. Just a tiny bit less. You still want clearance, but you want it to be a very small gap there. So I'm getting out my ridiculous Phillips head screwdriver length. I think it's like 300 millimeter long. Okay, so we just barely tweaked that just a tiny bit. So now it's just a little bit further this way. It's a little bit closer, and that clearance in there where the thread has to go through. Still have clearance, but it's just a little tighter. All right, we are threaded. We've got a few layers of fabric. This is just some test fabric that I use for a bunch of sewing machines, if you can't tell. And we're on a straight stitch 2.5. I want to put this one in the middle, so my tension's at 4, which is right in the middle, and I want to see how we do. We're doing a straight stitch first, so we'll go down and back, and then we'll try some zigzags and some other stitches. Okay, I am pulling the bobbin thread up through, and I'll show you, you can see that better. I'm going maximum stitch width, zigzag stitch, and then I'm going down on the stitch length. And this will tell me if my timing's off. We won't pick up the thread on one side. Or even if needle height is off, it'll do the kind of the same thing. But this will show me my tensions, and you'll see that here in a second. So for your tensions, you want to have the top thread, which is our black thread. You want that to be, you want to see only black right here. Right now we're seeing white and black thread. And the bottom, so we've caught every stitch, so that's a good thing. as far as timing and needle height are concerned. But as far as our tension, we're off, and we're off on the bobbin because this is in the middle, and I want to set the bobbin such that when our tension's in the middle, then we will make a good stitch. So I did a half turn. We'll see how that does. Okay, that's better. Not quite there yet. So I've got a little bit of white. I don't know if you can see it, but a little bit of white along this edge here. And we just want to get rid of that. So I did a half turn before, and now I'm doing additional, just a bit shy of a quarter turn. All right, we're going to go one more right next to that. Yep, that looks much better. Now we want to try some other stitches. I like doing this, I don't know what it's called. Let me know in the comments if you know what this stitch is called. We're about to see it. The reason I like to test this stitch is because this one requires the feed to be precise, requires your tension to be precise. It's a good test of a machine to see if it'll make that stitch right there. And this is looking really good. So then we're going to do some more straight stitches. Regular straight stitch. We're going to do a bunch of it. Because what she said was when she went over thick fabric, it sounded like metal hitting metal. So we're going to go over some really thick fabric here. A satisfactory retest. Now we're not done yet, because there's one thing that is new that I want to show you at the end of this video. So this is good. We have revived this machine. We have one last thing to do, is to finish cleaning up the outside of the machine. Some of these marks I put in here with some grease that I got from the inside of the machine. So we're going to clean the outside of the machine, and then we've got a special thing for this bad part. So the one last thing we're going to do, this is what we're going to start doing on all our videos when we have bad parts. Is right over here we have, this is what a little place I like to call Hades. So this is where we send dead parts to await the final judgment. We're sending these parts into Hades. So one day we'll go through here and see if there's anything good left in there on the judgment day. And that's it for this Pfaff 160S. And this machine is a nice little machine. Very simple on the inside. And we just had a little adjustment to make with that bobbin. And with the bobbin, you know, we had to replace the bobbin case because we had some needle strikes. And this machine should work well for its owner for more years to come.